Oshinoko, still a contender for anime of the year, or was it totally overhyped? There is no doubt in my mind that its premiere was one of the highlights of the 2023 anime year, as you could just not escape the show. Literally every social platform had Ai's face plastered all over it, and rightly so, as in my opinion, that first episode was really something else. I watch a lot of anime, especially seasonal anime, and from a standpoint of someone who likes to observe both sides of an argument and judge things from my own personal tastes rather than being swayed by others, yeah, Oshinoko's first episode was the best of what we have had so far this year, for me. The episode didn't feel like it was just a bunch of episodes mushed together, obviously being, 90-something minutes long, but rather like a full-length film, obviously. From the story to the character designs and music, the production was first-rate. The presentation was amazing in every way and kept me interested from beginning to end. The pace was excellent as well, giving each character ample time to tell their tale and demonstrate their development. Of course, the big twist at the end of the episode and the turn in where the story is going was the thing that truly made Oshinoko explode. I love how we shifted to this big revenge murder mystery drama. I'm all for that. As a kid who grew up listening to My Chemical Romance, these kind of stories just speak to my emo heart, you know? And the revenge theme is something I always reference as to why I fell in love with, the rising of the shield hero so much. Whenever I watch an anime that has this big revenge focus, it just really sucks me in. Sure, I enjoyed the true look at the idol industry premise, and I think that, that will have a huge part to play in what's to come. Particularly the notion of love being expressed in many a different way, even if some of those methods involve the occasional white lie. That thing of being in the competitive world of entertainment, telling these lies can occasionally be the difference between life and death. I truly do vibe with that. The reincarnation aspect to the show was also something I liked in the way that for me it was done in a different and kind of unique way that was outside of the norm. Keeping their memories from their previous lives is only going to not only strengthen the story going forward, but the development and motivations of both Ruby and Aqua too, from what we've already seen already. So yeah, Oshinoko's premiere was something that I personally felt deserved all the praise it received, but was the praise taken a little too far to the point where it became ridiculously overhyped? I believe now that the initial hype has died down enough that we can, truly see what the show is all about. Though I will say at the time of this video's making, episode 3 is the latest out, so it's still too early to judge the series as a whole, but I do believe we've seen enough to talk about whether it has been harshly overrated or if the show is still on track as an anime of the year contender. Now, I know a lot of the love for this show comes from its manga fanbase, who have been super happy with how it's been adapted so far, and I think that for me is a nod to how good the show is, but there are a lot of fans out there like me who are anime only, and I think that that's where we can truly base whether the show has been overhyped or not. I remember I put out a tweet saying that Oshinoko's second episode had so much pressure on it because of, the hype that followed its first episode, and in my last video I even mentioned that, all this series needs to do to keep people interested and keep this run going is to make sure that the following episodes are even remotely as entertaining as that pilot episode. And I feel like its episode 2 definitely lowered the show's pace, and I don't think that's a bad thing. So much happened in that first episode, and let's face it, the pilot wasn't really a normal episode. As we've said many a time, it was pretty much like that of a movie, so you're never going to be able to achieve as much simply because you don't have enough time to fit in as much in a 23-ish minute episode. However, it did keep the story going. I felt like the second episode was one that managed to still tell a compelling story, as well as develop a number of the plot points going forward, as well as the characters the show now focuses on. There was of course the time skip at the end of the pilot where both Ruby and Aqua are now 16 years old, and we see that Ruby is dead set on becoming an idol. Not only for Ai, but because this is a second shot at life for her due to how ill she was in her previous one. She idolized idols, and most particularly Ai, so this is something she is going to do no matter what. And for me, I think this is huge praise for the reincarnation part of the show and one of the strongest aspects of it, especially for Ruby. As for Aqua, we can see that he's still set on revenge, finding Ai's killer and dishing out his own form of justice, all while keeping an eye out for his sister Ruby so that she doesn't suffer the same fate as Ai. The second episode was slower, but it still managed to provide some great moments to keep us hooked in. I particularly like the relationship Aqua has with the director, though I do find his mother's comedy a little bit grinding, I must say. And also, I think it was probably obvious for so many, but to see that Ruby's rejection from her idol audition was all because of Aqua was like a really cool moment for me, because it sums up how protective he is of her, but also like how Aqua will be going about doing things, not just Ruby related, but of course in that revenge, finding Ai's killer and whatnot. So all in all, episode 2 was great. Slower episode with a lot less impact in it, but for me, that's what this episode had to be. You could easily start throwing too much shock factor into this, and if you do that, it would just make the show completely unbelievable, ultimately stripping you right out of the immersion that I praised its episode 1 for so much. Then we move on to episode 3, which is the latest one out as I'm making this video. For me, episode 3 was definitely the weakest offering so far, and it did leave me feeling a little meh. Like, I still enjoyed it and whatnot, and there were aspects about this episode that I guess needed to be the way they were and will play a part going forward, I presume, but I was just left feeling a little bit worried. I know a big part about this show is, of course, exposing the idol industry for what it is, but I felt like, the acting aspect didn't really stand out to me as something that really struck out too much, if that makes sense. And yet, I'll openly admit I'm here for different reasons, the revenge aspect and whatnot, and I know that the idol industry being exposed will play into all of that, but I just felt like this aspect didn't grab me as much in this episode. It was cool to see more of Kana's character, and I think the show does have a lot of potential to hit home with the way that it presents the emotions that these characters are feeling, but I just wasn't blown away by it here. There is certainly a lot of potential to the relationship Kana and Aqua will have, so I'm hoping the show doesn't go down as that one that had potential, being the main word that we're using here. However, I did think that this was kind of a strong episode for Aqua, and, it was the time spent with him that really kept me wanting more in this episode. You're seeing this side to him gradually come out that asks you, just how far are you going to go? And that's an aspect I'm really excited about. How far will Aqua go? One thing I did love, it was the dedication to how many passcode attempts he went through before getting the right one on Ai's phone. It just kind of reminded me of how Senku counted down all the seconds until he broke free of his petrification, so he knew the date and year in Dr. Stone. So yeah, Oshinoko for me has me worried with its episodes getting weaker since it's burst onto the scene, but I do feel that it is a show that is capable of exploding at any given minute, so I'm hoping that episode 4 will pick up a bit and give us that feeling that we're truly watching something special again. So do I think that the show has been overhyped? In short, yes, but not in the way I'm sure you're ready to bash me for in the comments. I think the first episode was a spectacle. It was something that we hadn't seen in, at least in a very long time, and it created such a movement. I think that a lot of people got caught up in that, me included, by the way, and I think the emotions that it made us feel compelled us to scream and shout this show so much that I think that it ultimately got a lot of people's backs up about Oshinoko. You see it with every show that gets popular. The love and admiration for it is literally in your face 24/7, and that tends to make some people instantly hate on it because they're just sick of seeing it everywhere. And I've got to say, the best comment I saw about this was on Reddit, I believe. Kind of graphic, very graphic, but it did make me laugh at really how true it was. The comment was something like, I don't hate Oshinoko, but I got some of the cum from the anime community sucking off the show land on my face, and I'm mad about it. It's totally graphic, like I said. I'm sure you weren't expecting that, but it just makes perfect sense. I'm sure there's another way we could put that, but it just makes perfect sense. I'm honestly, that phrase, I'm going to take that to the grave with me, for sure. So yeah, I think Oshinoko is really good. A very good show with a lot of potential to be one of the best we've had this year, but I do think that the last 2 episodes have just been okay. Not bad, not terrible, just okay. And I feel that if it continues this way, the show will just ultimately get lost. However, from the praise that the manga readers have given this show, I do have high hopes that it will pick back up again and prove to us why we were singing its praises so much in the first place. Like I said earlier, I just have this gut feeling that at any moment, Oshinoko can just drop a huge moment on us that will blow the show up again, and I am truly, truly here for that. So, is Oshinoko overhyped? Well, the first episode was truly something else, but if it continues to drop each week, I think it could easily be classed as such. But for me, I'd say that if that was the case, I'd rather say that instead of being overhyped, Oshinoko was a show that just could have been so much more. Now, while you wait for the next video to drop, why not check out this video where I talk about one of the absolute gems of this spring anime season in my love story with Yamada-kun at level 999. Guys, that is it from me. I will see you soon. Take care of yourselves till then. Okay, bye-bye. Peace.